Good evening to everyone out in television land. We are live with the Wiley Resource Center Legal Support Program. On tonight, we have myself, Melissa Williams. I'm the Executive Director and a volunteer attorney with the Legal Support Program at the Wiley Resource Center. And
I am Larry Kimbrough, owner-operator of Stay Focused Network and board member of the Wiley Resource Center as well.
And we're glad to be with you again on this evening. We actually have a special guest in the studio with us on tonight. We mention him quite often because he is the sponsor of House Bill 5723, which is the Illinois Sealing Bill. He is also the primary sponsor for House Bill 1210, which is Ban the Box. So we've been talking a great deal about these bills, and tonight we're going to be speaking with Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford from the 8th District, West Side. And we're going to be talking specifically about the sealing bill and Ban the Box as well. So, Larry, let's jump into it.
Yes, let's jump into it.
If you all have any questions, please do feel free to call in. This is a live show for the folks who are watching by television as well as those who are watching by internet. We always say, don't be scared. Call in with your questions. Okay. So we have been talking a little bit this week and reading articles and doing a little research about background check companies. We actually were very fortunate on last week, Miss Val and I, and you all will meet Miss Val before we're done with our series. We were doing some background checks ourselves down at 26th Street, because that is where we go into the computer system for the Cook County Circuit Court to look up information for the folks who visit with us to make sure that they are eligible for expungement or sealing, or if they're not, to let them know that they would have to apply for a clemency or a pardon. So you can do that both at the Daly Center as well as at 26 in California. So we were at 26 in California, and we met a gentleman who does criminal background checks, and we spoke with him about the sealing bill. We spoke with him briefly about Ban the Box and some of the work that he does. And in addition to doing that, the New York Times, I think it was on August the 10th, had an article about background checks. So, Larry, can you tell us a little bit about the article that we were working on this week?
Yeah, I can briefly elaborate on a little bit, and I'm going to ask you one question about the gentleman you spoke with. The question, the article at hand with the New York Times was questioning the accuracy of background checks done by private companies. It seems like the article was calling for government regulation, which may or may not be good for the situation. But basically, that's what the article was talking about, was how good are the background checks and how accurate are they? And are they reporting to the actual people that actually need the background checks?
Okay. So what does the article seem to think about the accuracy of the background checks?
It seems to me that when I was reading the article that they're worried that there is not a lot of accuracy in there. There's some things that can be misconstrued. Another thing that it pointed out was, I did not know this either when I was just reading it, that the people that are doing the background check are actually supposed to give notice to the person so they can actually read it and see if it is accurate or not before it goes to the employer. That has never happened to me before. I have never had that happen.
Well, what we've seen is that the federal government is supposed to be regulating. They are supposed to be looking to make sure that information that's given through background checks is accurate. And in talking with Tony Lowry from the Safer Foundation, that's one of the things that we've discussed as well, is that there needs to be tighter regulation. One of the concerns is that if a bill like the sealing bill were to pass, or when it passes, there's going to always be this problem with outdated information being given to employers. And so that's one of the inaccuracies that Larry is talking about. Sometimes there's old information out there, and instead of employers purchasing the newest information, they may be using old information that exists out there, or there may be a background check company that is giving out old information as well. So it's not like we're going to be able to pass the sealing bill and it's going to be the be all, end all, save all. Right? There's still going to be additional work that has to be done as far as enforcement is concerned. And there are many laws out there, as State Representative Ford will probably tell us later, that will require enforcement and oversight as well. Now, you said you had a question.
Yeah.
Or a comment.
It was a question. When you were speaking with the gentleman about the background checks, I don't know if you read the article before you had a chance to talk to him, but did he talk about how he actually got his information, how accurate he thought his information was?
He actually was sitting down with us at 26th in California, going through the computer system. So as accurate as the Circuit Court of Cook County's information is, that's how accurate his information is. He seems to be a smaller contractor, right? So he can be more detailed, and there are a number of agencies that are like that. They are more detailed in their information. One of the things that we noticed, we had spoken with someone a few months ago that was doing the same thing over at 26th Street, and they were saying that some of the employers run their backgrounds consistently, right? So they don't just settle with what they found today. A month later, they may come back and they may run backgrounds on folks again. Another thing that he mentioned to us is that there are educational institutions that are running background checks on their students as well as folks that work at the colleges and universities, because there have been a number of university shootings. He shared with me that there was a shooting out of state. I think it was maybe the Saturday before this one that just passed. And so he got a new client that said, I need to now run background checks right now on all of my employees, right? So as things happen in society, then that will dictate how often these background checks are being run. The interesting thing about it is that he was not opposed to the ceiling bill. Right? You would think, oh, he's a guy that runs criminal background checks. He's going to be opposed to this. He absolutely was not. You know, he just has to follow what the law says, right? As far as his reporting is concerned. If he looks in that system and when you get your record expunged, nothing comes up. Or when you get it sealed, the word sealed comes up in the system. So if it says sealed, he's not going to go digging any deeper trying to see what else was going on. The bottom line is, it is what it is. If it says sealed, he knows that he can't look any further. So, you know, when we're looking at who it is, who are the true opponents, and that's one of the things that we'll ask Representative Ford as well. Who are the true opponents to sealing? And we also have to look at, why are they opponents to sealing? Right.
I know when you were talking about not talking about, but we had talked. Well, I guess we had talked about it. Let me get my words right. The event that you just had, where they were protesting downstate.
Okay, so last week we were fortunate to go to the Governor's Day at the Illinois State Fair. So there were several of us that were from the NAACP, both the Chicago West Side branch and the South Side branch, as well as the Wiley Resource Center Operations 24. So we traveled down, and when we got there, you know, we saw a bunch of union folks. I'm talking about hundreds of folks in green shirts, right? And so they're obviously concerned about their pensions. They're concerned about contracts, right? But they're also concerned about the closure of prisons that are downstate, right? So what we noticed, and you know, we were kind of in shock and awe, because we went down to talk with some of the legislators about the ceiling bill and asking for their support, especially those that are downstate and may not be getting the message the way we are here in Chicago. So when we went down there, we saw folks with shirts that said things like Save Dwight, right, which is one of the institutions, and then TAMS, which is a super maximum security prison with a number of human rights violations. So that's one of the reasons that it's looking at being closed. I mean, in addition to
the physical responsibility,
saving budgetary matters, it's also dealing with human rights issues. And one of the shirts that blew me away said, "Save a life, save TAMS." So the reality is, you know, while we want folks to have jobs, we've got to find other ways to create jobs. Our country and our state cannot be built upon, you know, recidivism and incarceration. Right? So, but this is the thing. There were hundreds of folks that were down there. I mean, they were so loud, you couldn't hear Congressman Davis, and you definitely couldn't hear Governor Quinn.
Definitely couldn't.
Right? All you heard was their voices. And so if we're concerned about issues, not just the ceiling bill or ban the box, but whatever we're concerned about, we've got to speak out the way they were speaking out. Otherwise, our voices are going to be drowned out, and bills that like these that we're interested in for our communities, they won't be able to be passed.
So that's interesting. The support that we're supposed to be having to protect ourselves as black people is not there, but the opposition that incarcerates us, that holds us in these pens, has tons of support.
Absolutely. And then if you remember, those that were watching last week, Attorney Todd Belcourt from the Shriver Center gave us a number of people who are ex-offenders in the state of Illinois, and there are hundreds of thousands of them, and they are not just black. They are not just brown. Right? So what we've got to do is we've got to take our message to folks who are white folks too, right? They're ex-offenders too. They're suffering as well. And if you think that we're suffering on the south side and the west side of Chicago, you need to go to places like East St. Louis. And I mean, I'm sure Representative Ford can tell us about some of those counties that as the further we go downstate, and some of the true poverty that exists in some of those places. And they are not just black and brown places either.
Right.
So let's get a chance to talk about the hearing that is going to be coming up. We're going to be doing a hearing for House Bill 5723, which is the criminal record sealing bill, as well as Ban the Box, which is House Bill 1210, on Thursday. That's this Thursday, August the 23rd at 9:30 a.m. It's going to be at 160 North LaSalle in Chicago. And if you are interested in testifying, we would like to hear from you, because, you know, we really need you to come down and let your voice be heard on the record, right? This is a chance for you to be on the record with the legislators, telling them why this is important to you, your family, and your community. So, we got...
You do magic? Oh, my goodness.
Woo! Magic jazz hands.
Oh, my goodness.
We've got Representative Ford, who is with us on tonight. Remember, he is the primary sponsor for the sealing bill as well as the Ban the Box bill. How are you, Representative?
All right. Thank you for having me.
We love having you here with us. If you have questions for the representative, please do feel free to call in. So, Representative Ford, criminal record sealing bill, Ban the Box. Why are you sponsoring these bills?
Well, I mean, it's crucial for the entire state. It's crucial for people without a voice to have someone to speak up for them. I mean, we know that the incarceration rate is very high. We know that it's impossible to come back to society and find employment if you have a background. And I represent Austin, and we know Austin has the highest level or return rate of recidivism. People coming back from prison return to Austin, and I believe Inglewood is another community,
and Lawndale.
So I mean, and I live on the west side. I have people in my family that have backgrounds. I have friends and family members that that suffer from not being able to go to work. And what people fail to understand is that we think that we're holding them back, but we're really holding the entire state back.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Okay. So let me ask you, what is it like downstate? I mean, we're advocating for these things from here in Chicago, but what is the reality of introducing bills like this downstate?
You know, I think that you have the North and you have the South. We're still fighting, the North and the South fighting. And the prisons are in the South, and the jobs are in the South. And people believe there's no way they want to close the prisons. If they close the prisons, it's like closing jobs and putting people on unemployment rolls. So the legislators down in the rural areas, they're fighting for their jobs, and people up north, like Representative Flowers and Representative Turner, all the people that's fighting for the bill, like 5723 and HB 1210, we're fighting for jobs and fairness, and I think that the people in rural Illinois, they could find ways to create more jobs. You don't create jobs off the lives and off of humanity.
Absolutely. And we don't mean to demonize the situation or the legislators that are downstate. But the reality is, like Representative Ford just said, we can't create jobs on the backs of other people. I mean, that's like what slavery was, right?
And that's it. That's exactly right.
So, but it also is incumbent upon us to do some work, right? So it's not just talking about, these are our civil rights, we're concerned about these issues, but it is also talking to your legislators. And Representative Ford is already on your side. Representative Lilly is already on your side. Representative Golar, she's already on your side. These are co-sponsors of this bill, right? So Representative Howard, for years and years, she was already fighting for issues like this. She's the reason that sealing exists in Illinois at all when it doesn't exist in other states. But you've got to talk to some of the other legislators that are not with us, right? Some of them are in Cook County.
Yeah.
Right? You got to talk to the folks that are downstate. So that means that you've got to tell your family and your friends that live in some of these other areas, Peoria, right? Those that live in Pekin, folks that are down in Cairo, in East St. Louis. You got to tell them, we need the support of your legislator. You need to call your legislator. Do not be afraid. Your tax dollars pay their salaries. Do not be afraid. So why should people come and testify at the public hearing on Thursday? Why is that so important?
Well, I think I'll turn the tables because, I have to let everyone know how hard you worked on 5723 with your resource center and pulling this together. So as a legislator, I'm doing my job and I'm following the lead of the community. The community has asked me to carry a bill such as this, and the community has crafted it, and I've drafted it and filed it, and I'm going to do my best to pass it. But you are a lawyer, and I know this is your show, but you should tell me what the bill is going to do. I already know what it's going to do, but from a lawyer's perspective, I mean, this bill is extremely important, House Bill 5723, because it's going to change a lot of things if this bill passes. And the purpose of the hearing is so that the message that you're going to talk about, so that my colleagues can hear it, because there would be Republicans and Democrats at the hearing, and they need to understand the importance of this and what will happen if this bill passes, and what will not happen if it passes, and what will happen if it doesn't. So House Bill 5723 seals certain records. And what records are they again?
Well, I guess to put things in perspective, and we've been trying to do this over and over with every show to kind of calm folks down that are saying, oh, we're going to put, killers and rapists, in our places of employment, and they're going to kill us and rape us, right? That is not what this is, right? Although we do believe that folks deserve second chances when we're talking about nonviolent felony offenses, right? And although we would love to see all nonviolent felony offenses become sealable in Illinois, unfortunately, the time is not ripe for that yet, right? So the bill is talking about old retail thefts. So we're talking about retail thefts that are at least 5 years old, right? We're talking about burglaries that may have occurred because people, took something out of your car while they were on drugs. But this is something that occurred at least 5 years ago. We're talking about those old drug cases. It may have been folks that were standing on the corner that were selling drugs, but it's not folks that were selling drugs yesterday. These are people that were selling drugs 5, 10, 15 years ago, and they've gotten themselves together, but they just can't get it as far as a job is concerned. They can't get it as far as housing is concerned. They can't get it in order to be able to go back to school. You heard us say that we talked to the criminal background check guy, right? The universities and the colleges are asking for background checks on folks that are going to their schools and applying to go to their schools. So we're saying, let folks who have not been reoffending in at least 4 years is the waiting period. So what would happen is, after a person completed their sentence, whether it be conditional discharge, whether it be probation, whether it be jail, whether it be prison time, they have to wait at least 4 years to come before the court and ask for their records to be sealed, not expunged, not destroyed, not erased, right? We're not asking for that. We're asking for sealing, that it be locked away from the general public so that these folks can get back to living lives and supporting their families.
And so it's important. Who could see the seal? I mean, there are certain employers that probably would be exempt.
Right. And so you got government agencies that are still going, DCFS, CPS, in certain instances, depending on what type of job it is that you're applying for, they're still going to be able to see the record. The law enforcement folks, right? So the police, the Illinois State Police, Chicago Police Department, your local police departments, they will still be able to see a sealed record. Judges, right? State's attorneys, public defenders, they'll still be able to consider records when it comes to sentencing. So this is not saying that we're going to completely get rid of the record. This is just saying give people another chance. We talk often about Congressman Davis and the Federal Second Chance Act. This is another chance for people on the state level, right? This is a chance for our communities to be safer.
And you know why I feel strongly about this bill? Because it's not an automatic seal. I mean, the person still has to present themselves to the judge in order to have their record considered. You know, but this bill actually allows for them to be presented to the judge, because the offenses that's being added to the seal legislation in Illinois, these are new ones that's going to be added to Representative Howard's former bill. So this is not an automatic seal. It will allow for a person to present themselves to the judge to ask for their records to be sealed.
And you know, Representative Ford, the other thing is that it's not like it's just going to be you and the judge, right? The state's attorney is going to be there, right? The state's attorney has a right to know that you're filing for sealing and to object. The local police department has a right to know. The Illinois State Police have a right to know. And they have a right to object, and the judge will consider their objections. Right? So it's not, like you said, it's not an automatic thing. You have to be able to show that you have truly been rehabilitated. If the offense that you're trying to get sealed has to do something with a drug offense, whether you were accused of just possession or you were accused of selling it, you're still going to have to take a drop, right? And you're going to have to drop clean in order to be able to get your record sealed. So for those who are concerned about one of the other concerns that we had from one of our officials was that people would be able to reoffend, and then they would be able to go back and get their record sealed. The reality, we are not changing what the current law says with regard to that. If you reoffend, and we've talked about this on the show before, you know, your record can be unsealed. Right? So it's not a situation where you got it sealed, you're good to go, and you can go out and commit additional offenses. No, your record can be unsealed.
Yeah, and you know, I know time is running out. The show is until what time?
Until 7:25.
7:25. So I mean, I know you have to have last word, so I have to make sure that I say that it's very important that just like you have interest groups for gay and lesbian, you have interest groups for immigrants. They stand up very hard for the issues that concern them. The formerly incarcerated community must take this issue serious and make it an issue that they're going to come and stand for and make it their issue. Because people without backgrounds, they fear not just white people, not just downstate people, but people without backgrounds fear that if we allow for people with backgrounds to get into the workforce, then jobs will not be available for them. So we have to, I think the ex-offender community have to move very fast to make this an issue.
Well, Representative, let me ask you this. At what point will this bill be heard and voted on?
This bill will probably be heard and voted on not in the 98 General Assembly, so sometime in 2012. What year is this? 12?
Yeah.
2013. So it'll be in 2013.
So what we've got to make sure that we do, though, this is our opportunity to be formally on the record. You need to come out on Thursday. If you would like to testify, we're not asking you to get up there and give us a dissertation for 30 minutes. It's 2 minutes, right? So please make sure that you call in, talk to Miss Val, and let her know your name and that you're interested in testifying. Check us out on Facebook so you can get updates as well. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.